Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Surah Al Kahf. We've reached ayah number 102. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أَفَحَسِبَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَن يَتَّخِذُوا عِبَادِي مِن دُونِي أَوْلِيَاءَ إِنَّا أَعْتَدْنَا جَهَنَّمَ لِلْكَافِرِينَ نُزُلًا. Then do those who disbelieve think that they can take my servants instead of me as allies? Indeed, we have prepared hell for the disbelievers as a lodging. So Allah Ta'ala in this ayah is saying something which is very, very basic, central and essential to Islam. That we should not take any awliya, any allies apart from Allah. So our helper should only be Allah. Our guidance should only come from Allah, and we should seek help only and only from Allah and nobody else. Before we dwell more into the details of this ayah, I would like to go for the word awliya. Now awliya is plural, which means helpers. The verb is waliya and the noun is wali. Now these three things, waliya, wali, awliya, they all refer to nearness or closeness of one thing to another. That's the primary meaning. So the primary meaning is being near and close. So what Allah is saying is that apart from Allah, you should not be near or close to anyone else. Seeking help directly to Allah. There is no intermediary. Second thing he's saying is, the secondary meaning of the noun wali and the verb waliya is helper, friend, protector or guardian. And again the same thing is, if you want a helper, if you want a guardian, if you want a protector, it would only be Allah. You should only seek help, friendship, protection and guardianship from Allah and nobody else. Now let's go into the background of this whole concept of believing in Allah and believing in helpers. Where does it come from? The first thing is, we have to ask ourselves, why do people believe? Why believe in Allah? Why believe in God? And the answer is that the human brain has been made in such a way by Allah Ta'ala that it has a big section of it which is reserved for reverence. So we have this huge desire and huge capacity in our mind to revere someone. Now, if you do not have a godlike figure, you start revering other people. You have these pop stars and celebrities, and you have these role models and heroes and icons. So the reverence is always there. It's there in the human mind. And that's Allah's promise. He says that I have given you the capacity to believe in me. I've made you on a nature in which you have a tendency to believe in Allah. Now, humans want to satisfy that reverence. As I said, when you take away the concept of God, you go for heroes and you go for role models and icons and stuff. But generally as a society, humans have always sought to have a God. Even on the individual level, they want to seek someone divine. So what happens is that either they come across revelation or they do not come across revelation. So this has given rise to two types of religions. People who have come across revelation, they've got these religions based on Allah's revelation. We call them the Ilhami religions. These are Judaism and Christianity and Islam and the religion that Hazrat Ibrahim brought. We call it Islam. The religion that Nuh alayhi salam brought, which Adam alayhi salam brought. All the prophets, 124,000 according to the hadith. Now these are the revealed religions. In all these religions, which are based on revelation from Almighty Allah, the Ilhami religions, the concept is that you have a direct connection with God. You have a direct connection, a direct channel with Allah. So man and God, mankind and God, one connection, no intermediaries. Now there are other religions where people have tried to find God in absence of a revelation or in absence of a divine guidance from Allah. And all those religions are based on the concept that we are not able to contact God directly because there is no revelation involved in there. And we have to find an indirect method to contact God. So there are concepts of this in many religions where there's idol worshipping, where there is spiritual worshipping. There's like in the Central Asian, Mongolian religions, they used to worship the sky, and they had intermediaries. They had priests, which were intermediaries to contact to God. There were these holy people, soothsayers, who would have dreams, who would go into a trance, and they would contact God and bring messages down to you and take your messages to God. So all of these religions, they developed these concepts. Now a third thing happened. Some of the monotheistic Ilhami religions based on revelation ended up assimilating in them concepts from other religions of having an intermediary. Now, there is a case study, and I'll give you the case study of Zoroastrianism. So Zoroastrianism, in which Zarathustra, who came to the Persian people, and many scholars believe he is a prophet. We don't have 100% confirmation, but what he taught is very similar to the concept of Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. So let's take it neutrally. So Zarathustra comes to the people of Persia. They're all idol worshipping. He says to them, do not worship idols. Worship one God. That God has no idol, no face, no picture. So you're just going to believe in one God, monotheism. If you do good deeds, after you die, there's going to be a judgment day, which we call Yawm al-Qiyamah. And God is going to decide on your deeds and send you to gardens known as paradise. If you do bad deeds, God is going to send you to a punishing place known as Jahannam, or Gahnam in Hebrew. The word, in fact, comes from Persian. The word Jahannam is not an Arabic word, it's a Persian word. And there is going to be fire there. And he said there is an evil character like Shaitan, very similar to Shaitan. And this evil character is going to tempt you to do bad things. So resist the temptation. And he's always going against the will of God, and he wants you to go against the will of God. So people understood that. They believed in one God. After Zarathustra, a long time passed, and this God, which they called Ahur Mazda, they're worshipping him, and they start thinking, we need a symbol to worship. We need something to signify this God. So they thought, because God burns you in hell, and hell has fire, let's put fire as a symbol of God. So they put fire as a symbol of God. Soon that symbol of God, which became the intermediary, it started to take place of God instead. And they built temples around fire, especially in Baku and Azerbaijan area. They found these oil wells which were burning for centuries. Oil had seeped up to the ground, then lightning struck sometime and a fire erupted, and it kept on burning for centuries. So they built temples around it. And they said that was a holy fire. And the concept among people developed that maybe Jahannam is under the earth, and that's where the fire is coming from, because they had seen lava coming up. So they thought, oh, the Jahannam must be down there and paradise must be up in heaven. But another concept came, that there is a war going on between God and Shaitan. And in this war, some people are in the army of God and some are in the army of Shaitan. So there are good angels in the army of God, there are bad angels or jinn in the army of Shaitan. And Allah needs help, na'uzubillah. God needs help. And from the human beings, because they're large in number, both are trying to recruit. And sometimes God is asking the humans to come and help him. So you see, the concept of awliya Allah is coming in. Helpers of God. People who are friends of God and helpers of God. They help God. So Allah Ta'ala in this ayah is giving this twofold message. Firstly, there is no one close. The primary meaning of awliya is closeness. So there was no one close to you except Allah. Allah is the closest. And secondly, there's no one to help you except Allah, and Allah doesn't need any helpers, which is the secondary meaning of the word awliya. So whenever this word wali or awliya is being used, it's used in both terms, closeness and helper or friend and guide, and someone who guides. Now, just like Zoroastrianism, it totally changed form from a monotheistic religion. it became a fire-worshipping religion with a lot of awliya and saints. Similarly, there was influence on Christianity, and Gnostic Christianity was born, in which you have saints and you can't ask directly from Allah. You have to ask the saints. And there's a saint for everything. A saint for travel known as Saint Christopher. There's a saint for slaying dragons and fighting against evil, Saint George, and so on and so forth. And even today, they canonize people. The Catholic Church, it gives sainthood to people. And they become saints, and then you can ask them, and they will take your request up to Allah, and it will be sorted out. Same happened with Judaism, and the rabbinistic Judaism was born in the 6th century AD. And they based it on the concept, because they couldn't find in the Torah and Zabur, in the Old Testament, you can't find any concept of intermediaries between God and man. But they based it on a story that Moses, he did not just get Torah and Zabur. He did not just get Torah. Zabur came to Hazrat Dawud al-Islam. I do apologize. He did not just get Torah from Allah, but he was also given some secret spiritual knowledge and was told not to write it down, and was told just to pass it on by the word of mouth. And for centuries it had been passed on by the word of mouth, never been documented, because it was not supposed to be documented. And that's where the spiritualism comes and the rabbinistic Judaism comes. And nowadays the major Judaism is the rabbinistic Judaism, not the old pure form of Judaism which Allah Ta'ala had sent down. But then the question arises, if it was going to be word of mouth and never written down, why after the 6th century they started to write it down? So that is one of the objections which has often been raised in this case. Now, I would like to go for other ayat in the Quran which go against the concept of having helpers or people who are near to you apart from Allah. Surah At-Tawbah, ayah number 116. So 9th Surah, 116. Inna Allah lahu mulku samawati wal ardi yuhyi wa yumitu wa ma lakum min dunillahi min waliyyin wala nasir. Indeed, to Allah belongs the dominion of the heavens and the earth. He gives life and causes death, and you have not besides Allah any protector or any helper. So very clear message. Next you go to Surah An-Nisa, and it says, Wallahu a'lamu bi'adaikum wa kafa billahi waliyan wa kafa billahi nasira. And Allah is most knowing of your enemies, and sufficient is Allah as an ally, and sufficient is Allah as a helper. And then there's another one in Surah Al-Kahf, which is very strong ayah. And I think in this ayah, the whole concept is clear. So Allah Ta'ala says in Surah Al-Kahf, it's ayah number 41, مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَوْلِيَاءَ. The example of those who take allies other than Allah is like كَمَثَلِ الْأَنْكَبُوتِ اتَّخَذَتْ بَيْتًا, like the example of a spider who takes a home. وَإِنَّ أَوْهَنَّ الْبَيُوتِ لَبَيْتِ الْأَنْقَبُوتِ. And indeed the weakest of the homes is the home of the spider. لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ, if they only knew. So how clearly Allah has said that taking protectors apart from Allah is like making a home out of a spider's web. And you know that a spider web is the weakest of all. And it doesn't stand a chance against the onslaught of any kind of physical action. Whether you wipe it with a hand or a strong wind blows, it just breaks. And then in Ash-Shu'ara, ayah number 9, it says, أَمِتَّخَذُوا مِن دُونِهِ أَوْلِيَاءَ فَاللَّهُ هُوَ الْوَلِيُّ وَهُوَ يُحْيِي الْمَوْتَ وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. Or have they taken protectors or allies besides Him? But Allah, He is the protector, and He gives life to the death, and He is over all things competent. And in Surah Al-Jathiyah, ayah number 10, مِن وَرَائِهِمْ جَهَنَّمُ وَلَا يُغْنِي عَنْهُمْ مَا كَسَبُوا شَيْئًا وَلَا مَا اتَّخَذُوا مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَوْلِيَاءَ وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. Before them is hell, and what they had earned will not avail them at all, nor what they had taken besides Allah as allies, and they will have a great punishment. To my best of knowledge, there are more than 30 ayahs like this in the Quran, where Allah says He's the only protector. You don't have any protector. You should only take him as a protector, as a wali, as a friend, as someone near to you, someone to trust. However, there are only two ayahs on which people often base this objection and say, no, we can have awliya from the human beings. Now, here I would like to explain one thing to you. What Allah is saying in Quran is that you ask for help only from Allah. Allah's help can come to you directly or indirectly. So, you're thirsty in the desert and you ask for Allah's help. What Allah can do is, He can send you rain, you get water. Or He can send you someone who brings you water. Or He could guide you to a well, or He could guide you to an oasis. So indirect help from Allah can come through people. But you are not supposed to ask for it. You're not going to ask people to give you help instead of asking Allah. But Allah may send that help indirectly through people. And the examples are given very clearly in Surah Al Kahf. Al-Khidr, Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam, what does he do? He goes and helps the people with the boat. Then he goes and helps those poor parents whose child is going to be a source of evil for them and the whole world. And the third one, he goes and helps those orphans by fixing their wall. So this is indirect help coming from Allah. And this is the same case in Zulkarnain. When Zulkarnain goes to those people who have been harassed by Yajuj and Majuj, what do they say? They say, Zulkarnain, please help us build a wall and we'll give you money for it. So they're not asking him for help. They're asking him to do a deal, a business deal, a transaction. We give you money, you make a wall. And he says, no, I'll do it for free. And he does it for free. And then what he says to them in the end, قَالَ هَذَا رَحْمَةٌ مِّن رَبِّي. This is a blessing and a mercy from my sustainer, from Allah. So there's an ayah in Surah Tawbah, ayah 71, where Allah Ta'ala explains this. The secondary help coming through Allah. Not that you are asking help from someone other than Allah, but Allah is sending help indirectly through His people. So He says, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتُ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. The believing men and believing women are allies of one another. How? يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ وَيُطِيعُونَ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ. They enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong, and establish prayer and give zakah and obey Allah and His Messenger. So you see here the term helper is coming in helping each other fulfill what Allah has ordained. So the establishing prayer, giving zakah, all these things, when you give zakah to a poor, you are helping them. But this help is coming from Allah. The poor is not asking you for help. He's praying to Allah for help. You go and give them the zakat. Similarly, establishing prayer. You ask Allah that you want to establish prayer. And then you get together and make a mosque. So here the secondary help is being explained by Allah, that Allah can help you through people. But you never ask anyone for help instead of Allah. And you never beg anyone for help except Allah. And similarly, there's an ayah in Surah Yunus, which is the 10th surah, and ayah number is 62, in which Allah says, Ala inna awliya Allahi la khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun. And this ayah is quoted again and again to justify that yes, you can have awliya. But again, just read this ayah. Allah, unquestionably, inna awliya Allahi, for the allies of Allah, la khawfun alayhim, there will be no fear concerning them, wa la hum yahzanun, nor will they grieve. So people who make Allah their ally, who ally themselves with Allah, for them there would be no fear and no grief. And next ayah explains it. Who are going to be these people? Are these people which we are going to ask for help? No. Allah explains in the next ayah, in ayah number 63, Allazina, those people, amanu, who believed, wa kanu yattaqun, and were fearing Allah. Simple as that. So here the word is used as people who have taken Allah as their helper. It's just often misquoted as saying that no, these are some special people who are there to be intermediary between man and Allah. No, Allah has in the next ayah explained. If you just move to the next ayah, it says, "Allazina amanu wa kanu yattaqun." These are the people who believed and were fearing Allah. Even in the past tense is being used. You believe and were fearing Allah, they will have no fear in Yawm al-Qiyamah, and they will have no grief. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll move on to the next ayah, and there's another very important and very detailed message in that ayah, and we'll study it in depth, inshallah ta'ala. Till then, please remember everyone in your prayers. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A special thank you for everyone who made this effort possible, especially our IT team. Last but not the least, a big thank you and special prayers for the person who started this dawah effort with me, but prefers to stay anonymous at present. Please remember us all in your prayers. May Allah reward everyone who's involved in this dawah effort, especially the people who are watching it and listening to it. May Allah reward them in this life and the hereafter. Ameen summa ameen.